there. Sherrod's trying to get to the bottom of shit right now. Okay. Um,
John,
yep.
this is taking me back to my days in
He's
Detroit.
digging. He's trying to figure stuff out.
Something smells real fishy. I mean, the Celtics got the win, but obviously, we're talking about Jaylen Brown and the two techs, and that it's not. First of all, Jaylen getting two techs in itself is bizarre, but the way they came about, particularly that second one, raises a lot of questions that I'm hoping the pool reporters, here at the Garden will try to get some answers from the officials on, because that was not a clear, obvious technical foul that Jaylen got in the second one.
I even think I thought the first one was pretty suspect too, but the second one I don't understand. Breaking it down, we'll update you what's going on. Bobby and Josue are both down there. Joe's already talked about it. He called it, quote, weak ass shit. He had a conversation with the refs as well. He was pretty fired up. The refs will talk to the pool reporter, so we'll have some information off of that soon and get an explanation about what it is that and who was it again?
It was Jason Goldenberg.
Jason Goldenberg, what it is he saw from that far away or heard from that far away that made him toss Brown out of the game. And it's really interesting. This feels like a classic, they're going to rescind it sort of thing, because I'm sure that they will. It's also a no harm, no foul situation because the Celtics did win, but that could have impacted the game. You're talking about 7 minutes and 7:23 or something along those lines left in the game, and Brown's out. That's it. Bang, bang. Yeah. Fifth foul, 2 techs. Could have been a big turning point. Ended up not being. And the Celtics hang on to win. But the Jaylen stuff's definitely what's kind of lingering right now, because people are trying to figure out exactly what the reason behind it was, because it was hard to see. It was hard to tell.
Well, it was hard to see and hard to tell based on how quick it came. And just, again, as you touched on, John, the proximity of the official from which Jaylen was on the sideline. He was out of the game. He was doing what you're supposed to do when you get attacked. And the thing that I'm curious to hear about is, one, his reasoning and rationale for that second tag. And also, I'm curious to see what the league is going to do when they review this, because this will be reviewed. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The league is going to take a closer look at this. And are they going to punish Jaylen even more so? Because at one point he did have to be restrained. He did not leave the court right away. And in part because he didn't know what the hell he was getting tossed out for. So I'm hoping that when the league reviews this, that they will they'll factor in this thing we like to call common sense. Because if I'm kicked out of a game and I don't really know why, and Jaylen literally had no way of knowing, because the guy that made the call was on the other side of the court. So it wasn't as if he could just say, "You're tossed, you did this, XYZ 1, 2, 3." Didn't happen. So I'm just, again, this John, and I love you, John. You know you're my guy, but God, I wish I was down there with them right now.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. I know.
But listen,
you want to be mixing it up. Yeah.
We need answers, and there's going to be opportunities to get those answers and get some of those answers tonight. But even whatever the referee says tonight, it's not going to be over, because this will be looked at. And John, I agree with you. I think there will be strong consideration to rescind that second tech, and because it just doesn't really make a lot of sense until we get some kind of rationale or reasoning for it.
I don't have it. I mean, again, so we are definitely curious to hear what's going to come out of it, because, I don't think anybody at home kind of got it. There, our man Amit got a pretty good shot. Here's Brown barking after the fact, at what went on there when he's coming back onto the court, and that was probably the only thing that went on. He didn't have. He didn't leave the court, as you said, in a timely manner, so you never know what's going to happen in that regard. But I definitely think they're going to pull that thing back, and I thought that was I'm going
to call it what it is, John. It was Bush League bullshit.
It was bullshit. That. And I hate playing the homer card like, oh, that was dumb. Like I thought Tatum actually might have earned his the other night, Yeah. I don't think Jaylen earned it. I also think Jaylen gets the best behavior consideration here. He's not a guy who gets teed up. He's not a guy who gets super emotional. He's not a guy who's in on the refs all the time. I mean, he'll complain here and there like every other person, but that's just not his shtick. He's never been tossed out of a game. This felt, I wouldn't say personal. I don't know if they have a history. It just felt like excessive.
It was totally excessive. Now the first tech, you know what? I don't have an issue most of the time when players get that first tech because especially if they don't just like let shit go or let stuff go. And Jaylen, I thought he did linger a little bit, and I thought it was a weak tech, but I could understand the reasoning behind it. It made sense. He got called for his fifth foul, and he let it be known that he wasn't happy about that.
Yeah.
And the ref teed him up. But the second one,
Yeah.
that one made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
And that's one that the refs need to explain what the hell happened there, because there's no way anyone but the ref knows why that one was called.
So we'll put a pin in this one and get back to it because we're going to hear a little bit more from the officials exactly what went on there. But there was a lot of good to talk about from tonight, and that's if you want to go kind of in order, you're definitely going to start with Kristaps Porzingis. Now, he definitely cooled off, started 7 for 7, missed his next 6 shots, didn't play as much down the stretch, but his impact was almost immediate. Jaylen Brown, who hadn't had an assist in 2 games, immediately gets 2 quick ones to KP. He needs his buddy there, to get it moving. But I texted the guys on the thread the other day, and I actually think Brian Barrett put up the same stat on Twitter today. The Celtics the 2 5-man lineups that have played the most for the Celtics is the starting 5 that you have that Bobby wants to dismantle. I have to add that. So the regular starting 5 and the same 4 with Al and not Kristaps, okay? It's about a 2 to 1 minute gap between the starters, but it's by far the top 2, most heavily used 5-man lineups. The net rating disparity is I think it was plus 26 to minus 13.
Shit.
So plus 26 with Porzingis and the other the 2 J's and the 2 guards, and minus 13 with Al in the same unit in about half of the minutes. So this isn't meant to disparage Al, but it is interesting how much they've come to rely on Porzingis so heavily this early in his tenure.
Yeah, and the thing that he does is he allows all those guys to do things that they would not otherwise be able to do. We talked about this on the Big Three NBA podcast with me, Kwani Lunis, and Gary Washington. We talked about who would benefit the most from Porzingis' return, and it was unanimous that it was going to be Jaylen Brown. And we saw that early on in this game. And Jaylen is just, as crazy as it sounds, he's a more complete player when he's on the floor with Porzingis. He doesn't make those frustrating Jaylen Brown moments as much as he does when there's no Porzingis. And I don't know how Porzingis in such a short period of time has become that calming influence that allows Jaylen Brown to look closer to being a $300 million player than he does when Porzingis is not around. But this was a game that, again, I thought the third quarter was absolutely the turning point when they finally started to play some defense. I mean, both teams shot in the mid to high 50s for most of the first half. And that third quarter, that was a Derrick White show, getting it done at both ends of the floor. There was a sequence where he had a block at one end, and then that led to a transition basket for Tatum with a layup that put him up by 20. And that little 10, 15-second sequence was kind of a microcosm of that third quarter with Derrick White on the floor. But this was one of those games where I thought the Celtics, again, there were moments where they reminded us why they're on that top tier of teams in the NBA. But there were flashes of why they got whipped by Indiana, and flashes of why they have those moments where you're just like, what are you doing? But at the end of the day, they got the win. They lived to fight another day. And I think we're going to even hear about Jaylen talking about this game a little bit later, I think. Stats.
5-man lineups. You look at that first one there. That's 27 net rating with the starters. With Al, minus 14. It's a 41. It's a massive gap there. And again, not an indictment on Al. It's just to show that the
Porzingis is a big deal.
The Porzingis, what he does for everything, it's just the ability to spread the floor, and the way that they play 5 out the way they do, and just whatever you decide to do, you're kind of screwed. If you play drop, Porzingis off of that screen, with Tatum, can just flash and get a 3-pointer every single time if he wants it. They can do a lot there. They can do a lot with very little. It's actually very easy to run the offense when he's out there, or just kind of hit him down low. And how many times was it just I'm taller than you sort of situations with it? It just opens up the offense in so many ways. I would say for like 2.5 quarters, almost 3. And that's only because they missed a few bunnies in the third quarter to keep, that they were right there, just rolled in and out. That's as good as they've played on offense all season long. Just in terms of the ball not really sticking, not a ton of ISO, moving it around, getting good shots. I mean, and again, it helps when you shoot 50, 40, 90, for an entire game, which is what they did tonight.
Yeah, and I was paying a little bit closer attention to when Luke was on the floor, not so much around the basket, but when he's setting those screens for Tatum. And what does he do once Tatum makes his action move? And he just stands there. Porzingis will either roll or pop out and be ready to shoot, and Luke just stands there. And
that's not fair.
And I'm looking over at Bobby, and I'm like,
"Ya boy."
And Bobby's looking at me like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. I'd rather him do one or the other. I want him to either roll hard or just pop out and be ready to shoot. Just give me something. Yeah. Give me something besides being a 7-foot brick."
Without turning this into the let's crap on Cornette show, because it had no bearing on tonight at all.
It didn't, John, but John, that has been weighing on me all game. I got it out of my system. Therapy session is over. We can move on. Well,
yeah, no. But I'll just add one thing. What kills people with Cornette, Cornette is almost every run starts with Cornette in the game, So that's what's always concerning, because teams go at him, and he's just so easy to go at, and he just doesn't grab any rebounds. You want to know, and again, I know Horford was technically the first big off the bench, but when you were playing, when Porzingis was out, and you were forced to bring Cornette as your backup big, it's just not like he had 1 rebound, granted, in 11 minutes. Hartenstein, who comes in as the backup center for the Knicks, granted, he played 29 minutes, 16 friggin' boards. That's what you kind of need from your bigs. That's what's always bugged me about Cornette. It's just a big who doesn't play big. And so I don't know really what the purpose is there, other than sometimes you just need a tall person to stand there with their hands straight up in the air and hope that that's enough, because that's about what you're going to get.
I just want him to give me something. Be a shooter, be a rebounder. Give me something. Just get. I don't get it. One.
I don't get it. I don't get it. One. I've never gotten it. I've never, ever.
Let's talk more about Kristaps. Oh my God, he was so damn good at the start of this game.
He's so good, man. Yeah. No, he was great. And Kristaps is going to get a lot of love. Derrick White's going to get a lot of love. Drew Holiday needed a game like today.
He did,
because he had shots had not been falling. People started saying he looked a little slow. Last we saw him, he was grabbing at his knee. He hasn't had the best couple weeks stretch here, almost to the point that people started so did we need to
Was this really a good deal?
Did we need to trade for Holiday? Because everyone wants to love it. And then you see Rob Williams go down, and it's like, well, yeah, you want it off of Brogdon anyway. Right. But yeah, it had been, and me, I'm a huge Holiday fan. So I was happy to see him, knock a few down and get to the rim and finish with the left. I feel like he's been struggling doing that. Recently, his overall numbers at the rim have not been great. Anyway, we're going to hear from Joe. We're going to go back to the Jaylen stuff because a lot of people are talking about it. Brown talked too. We'll hear from him, but here's what Joe had to say regarding the Jaylen Brown ejection.
No, I've been on the sidelines in the NBA for 5 years, and I've seen players act and say things that are way more disrespectful than that.
And then on the second one, because it seemed like Jaylen went to a different referee, and the first one was maybe still interacting with him. What was happening there on the second one?
I didn't necessarily see what was happening on the second one, but I got a clear explanation on the first one.
Okay.
I'm doing everything I can to not cost myself $25,000.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Wow, Joe is steaming.
Joe's a young coach. Joe needed that in-season tournament check too. So he's not going to give away another $25K.
Joe, if ever there was no. That's no. It's the holiday season. You don't want to give away that.
What you do as a coach, if you want to get your money's worth, is rather than criticize the refs, just go freaking ballistic and get yourself tossed. That's your pound of flesh there. That's not going to get you fined. That's going to get it out there. There's no benefit to saying stuff, publicly, because you're going to get trashed.
Yeah, you are. And I appreciate the fact that even though obviously he didn't verbally express his frustration and his anger, he made it clear that he was frustrated and pissed about what happened.
Yeah.
And again, I think Joe, he's a young coach that's trying to figure out what's the best way for him to manage not just the players, but also manage his emotions. Because I can't imagine being a coach in that situation and you feel as though your guys deserve better. I mean, when you hear some of the stuff and again, having been on press row and listening to some of the things that players who are considered top 20, top 40, hell, even some guys who aren't even, freaking Patrick Beverly gets more love.
Kevin Garnett should have been getting like 15 texts every trip up and down the court, just.
I again, I spent a lot of years covering Rasheed Wallace, and I can tell you, he earned a lot of those texts. But he had some where he didn't earn. Like he got teed up for laughing at a player, literally just laughing at a player. So Junis Ilgauskas, I'll never forget it, and that got rescinded. But the point is this: it's an emotional game, and I get that, and not only for players and coaches, but also for officials. But that second tech, I need to know what the hell happened on that one, because that's the one that makes absolutely no sense from an outsider looking at the game perspective. It makes no sense. No sense.
So we'll hear more on that. Those guys, Jaylen finished up talking. We'll get some of that sound on the air in a little bit. Bobby and Josue will be doubling back, and we'll hear from them as well. And again, I do want to get into a bunch of other players, because if we were going to give out a brownie tonight, I think honestly, you can make a case for White. You can make a case for Al. You can make a case for Holiday. You can make a case for Porzingis. There was a lot to like from a lot of different players tonight. And so I think deserves a little bit of love. We'll get into that in a minute. I'll tell you guys first, FanDuel, if you want to get involved there, don't listen to me on my Patriots advice the last couple of weeks. I've been a little bit off. Just
a little bit.
Well, I thought they were going to beat the Chargers. And you know what? You hold the team to 6 points, and you should. But
Agreed.
They didn't. And I said, I don't care how low you set it, hammer the under when it was going to be Trubisky versus Zappy. I was like, there's going to be 12 points scored in this game. It's just and no, that went over in the first half. But anyway, if you're a smarter guy than I am and you want to try your hand at some sports betting, there's no better place to do it than FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston. Get $150 in bonus bets when you place a winning $5 money line bet. That's all you have to do. FanDuel.com/Boston. Win that $5 money line bet. That means you just bet on the winner. You don't have to worry about point spreads or anything complicated. $150 in bonus bucks, non-refundable. You have to use them within a week. Restrictions apply. Check out the website. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Get in on the action today. We'll also tell you quickly about our friends over at Dreamers Pro who are running a special and a promotion on SeatGeek, #1 ticketing app. Thousands of events live throughout the country that you can get to, and sometimes it's a tough ticket and tough to get in. So you got to use a ticket broker, and no better place to do it than SeatGeek. And no better way to do it than to get a discount, $20 off your first order if you use the promo code Dreamers Pro. So once again, go to SeatGeek, put in that code Dreamers Pro, $20 off. If you're gonna go out there and you're looking for a ticket somewhere, you might as well take advantage of this offer tonight. Let's whip around here, and we'll go with D. White. I think statistically it's hard to argue that he wasn't the guy tonight. This was, we might overuse the term phenomenal. This was a phenomenal game from Derrick White.
He was so good. And it was
in every way, and it's not just the counting stats. He was so freaking good.
Yeah, you look at the line for Jalen Brunson, not great. And defensively, he was really, really good. But the thing that he did that I thought was just really smart, and I watched him a little bit closer in the second half, his ability to move without the ball is so freaking good. And they've done a much better job of getting him the ball in sweet spots where he can be most impactful, where he's comfortable. And he's done a much better job recognizing when he needs to just go at guys. And it gets back to something Tatum has said time and time again about how they have to almost like beg him to be more assertive. And there are nights where he doesn't have to be nudged, and this is one of those nights. And I think seeing Jalen out of the game, I think for him something clicked that just said, I just got to go get buckets because Jalen's not around, and Tatum, Tatum's going to need some help. So let me do what I can do. And I got a mismatch almost every possession with either Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson on me, who's too little, Julius Randle's too slow, DiVincenzo too little. And he did a really good job of just making the Knicks pay for every matchup that they didn't address the way they should have.
Yeah. It was, again, just a really interesting night. Like, it felt like Tatum and Brown were like the other guys in this, on this team for a while tonight. Like, if you had never watched a basketball game in your life and this was the first one ever, like, you might be like, oh, this Derrick White guy must be their best player, and also that really tall guy, and it's not because the other guys were bad. In fact, I actually thought Brown was having a really good all-around game in terms of and I think he got tweaked by something, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But Brown, he's got, he definitely pays attention to what's being said, maybe a little bit too much, but I wonder if it impacted the way he played tonight. But I thought he played really well. But Tatum, one shot. I don't think he got a shot in his first stint before he subbed out at about the 6-minute mark. I don't remember him touching the ball in the first six or so minutes.
Yeah, I don't know whether that was by design or to get Porzingis going, because Porzingis had the mismatch, and Porzingis had the hot hand right out the gate, and he was making the Knicks pay inside game 3-ball. He scored the first 8 points, so my first initial thought was that maybe Tatum is just going to ride this early hot hand and not know that he's still going to get his shots as they come in the flow of the offense. But Tatum did not look like he was looking to score early on. And I don't know whether that was just him just having one of those stretches or whether he was consciously trying to be part of the Porzingis, let's get KP going because he's been out for a minute.
Yeah. Maybe. But the thing is, like, it wasn't one of those, like, there would be times watching this team in the past, Sherrod, where you'd be like, what is Joe doing? Get Tatum the ball. And honestly, if shots weren't dropping and they went down 18-8 in those first 6 minutes and Tatum didn't get a shot, we'd be having a different conversation, which is, how in the world do you not initiate some offense through your best player? But they kind of didn't. And I kind of like that in the sense of, like, we're just going to play. You may get the ball, you may not. We're not just going to give it to Tatum with 10 seconds into the clock and let him kind of figure out what he's going to do next. I find that that's when their offense is at their worst. And I liked that the ball was in other people's hands and they were doing their thing and it was moving around and you're getting Porzingis on, open looks and White was doing his thing. I don't mind it because I do think you've got this type of team where you can have a more democratic offense and not really need to feed guys.
Right. And it's good to see them actually not only look to do that, but be effective in doing that. I mean, Porzingis, Derrick White, Drew Holiday, you name it. Pretty much everyone but Tatum, those first few minutes was really in a good rhythm offensively. And the Tatum, he's such a phenomenal talent that he can have a quarter where you don't look for him at all and still finish the game with 25, 6, and 7.
It happens all the time.
All the time. He's that damn good where he doesn't need to hunt shots. He doesn't need to hunt opportunities to get buckets because he's so talented that it's just gonna happen. There are very few players in this league that can just basically wake up out of bed, go into the basketball court, and get you 25 without doing any. You don't really even have to call plays for Tatum, really. He's that good. He's going to recognize the opportunities to get buckets. And I just thought early on it was Porzingis' night, and they made a point of feeding him early and often.
But again, I still find it remarkable that we can talk about a Celtics team and say they looked as good offensively as they've looked at any point in the year, and you had kind of a so-so, Tatum game, and Brown was pretty good, but wasn't dropping buckets by any means and got ejected, and you still come away with it scoring 133 points and feeling like this was one of the better all-around offensive games that you had. That just kind of shows like both the firepower and the Porzingis effect on this offense. Again, it was just hard for them not to score. It kind of felt like, and that's what I think people like got, myself included, got geeked up about, early in the season when those guys were. It's just like, how do you stop this? How can you contend with this and with this team when they're playing that way?
Well, I think, John, it goes back to what you said earlier about that democratic little d approach to the game, where it becomes extremely difficult for your defense to do the things that you've been trained to do. If there's a hot hand, you either double team, you tilt, you blitz, you do something to throw that hot hand off. But what do you do when there's 5 hot hands?
Yeah.
What the hell are you going to do when you've got a 7'2" guy that can score around the basket and from 3-point line? You've got a 6'6", 6'7" guard in Derrick White who can guard 1 through 5 on a lot of teams and still go out there and get you 15 points as the 5th option. And they pose a lot of problems when they are playing that all-encompassing. Everyone is feeding off of the ball.
Yeah, I think, and if defensively they tried like 10% harder, in the first half, I thought the effort was, I don't think they were contesting much, on a lot of them, they play a little bit tighter defense, and this thing's a 25-point game at the half, the way the offense was playing. But Knicks shot the lights out because I think the Celtics kind of let them have some open looks, and
they did.
They knocked them down.
They did, and that was a disappointing thing because a guy like R.J. Barrett, for example, he's been kind of struggling lately. He's scored less than 20 in the previous 4 games. He's only averaged about around 16 points a game in their last 5 games, and they gave him so many great looks. I mean, he was the one guy that I'm just watching him play. I'm like, I know he's not like, perennial all-star, but damn, put some respect in that man's game. You can't let him just dribble and drive and shoot and raise up and do whatever the hell he wants to when he wants to, because he's an NBA player. He's going to make shots if you do that.
I have the pool report right now, so I'm going to read a little bit off of it, kind of in real time. I'm just seeing it now, so give me a second here. I'm opening it up. Where did it go? Here it is. Okay, so the pool report. What warranted Brown getting the first technical? First technical foul was called for use of profanity towards the game official. What warranted the second technical on Brown? Second technical foul was called for a wave off directed at the official, which under the respect of the game guidelines is considered an overt gesture and unsportsmanlike act. That's it.
Wow.
That's the whole report.
So wave off.
Let's put it this way. Letter of the law is that. And I'll say this, it's that whole first tech, second tech thing, right? Like, how many first techs have we seen with this? Porzingis has gotten them. Tatum's gotten them. We've seen them quite a bit. They don't want it. Like, so they're trying to eliminate it for sure. And yes, that's what I said. There's some gesticulating on the bench there, and Brown's waving, but I don't think he waved off the official. I believe I believe what he was saying was the same foul down there. And they saw him waving his hand and banged him for it. And so that's what I thought. I didn't think it was words. And when Joe said I've heard worse, I don't think they heard what he said from down there. I think they saw this and waving his arms around and called it the overt gesture, which again, you got to be looking to eject a guy to do that in the first place because he was so far out of there and he's not. But I really think, you can see him mouth it. It was the same play down there, and he's pointing to the other end of the floor, not at the ref. I think they'll see that and do some very basic lip reading and be able to figure that out pretty quickly and reverse it.
Well, here, this is the one of the officials, Sean Corbin, was near Jaylen when that call from the other official on the other side of the court made the call. Sean Corbin, I think he's the one that could clear a lot of this up. If Jaylen is over on that on the sideline saying, make the same call down there, and you get back there with your officials, and you've got one who says, I gave him the second toss because he was waving us off. Why would you not speak up and say, no, he was saying make the same call down there, which is different than waving you off.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
This is some oh man.
It's
man.
it's silly stuff.
It is. It is.
It's silly, but I think we had it right on first glance, like looking at it, and that's what it was.
That the hand motion was what, and that's
the hand motion. The hand motion did him in because they thought he was that he was. You're wrong.
There's a difference between just saying that's waving you off, but if I'm going directly like this, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is. Still waiting for Josue and Bobby to join us at some point. We will have a little bit of Jaylen Brown sound on the ejection. We'll get back to that story in a bit because I wanted to do the, get that full report action there. But, I'll let you gush a little bit about our man, Al. And again, I put up that stat earlier, and it doesn't look great, Al, with the starters. So I certainly don't want, but what was missed on that stat was the third most used lineup that they play there with those teams is the double big lineup. And it in fact does very well. So, oddly enough, Bobby still has some semblance of a case in his quest to get Al starting. But still, it's really more a matter of, I just think Al is perfectly suited to come off the bench, and just the way that they can kind of set their rotations. I still don't know why Kornet needed to play tonight, but maybe it's, again, you wanted to keep Porzingis under 30 maybe in his first game back, and that was more the thinking rather than stretch him out to 35, 36, 37 when he hasn't played in 3 weeks or so. But I just think it makes perfect sense. But he played a near perfect game tonight.
Yeah, and this is the Al Horford that if you're going to win a championship, Boston, you're going to need this Al Horford. Come in there, be solid on the boards, knock down open threes because you're going to get a lot of open threes. You don't have to take every one, but you need to at least make one or two so that the defense will respect you a little bit out there. And Al did his job tonight. I mean, this is literally if they could copy what Al did tonight and have this Al every single game, they're winning a championship. There's no doubt about it because Al gives you exactly what you need off the bench. I think we all can kind of see the writing on the wall that once they get to the playoffs and this bench gets a little bit tighter, we're probably not going to see certain players that we saw out there tonight come off the bench. And Al is not one of them. Al will be out there.
Yeah.
So this was good. This was good Al. This was the good Al that I think the Celtics absolutely need to see more of going forward.
Now that you're whole again, does that mean the Banton minutes and the Keita minutes are gone forever?
You know what? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no because I think Joe still in the back of his mind is thinking, even though this is my core group, I kind of like the Banton guy. And again, I'm speaking for Joe. I'm not speaking for Sherrod because Sherrod is not on board with Banton's minutes. I am off that ship altogether. SHIP, ship altogether. But Joe is not. Joe likes what he's seeing out of him. I don't. I just don't think he's giving you anything. You've got enough guys who can handle the ball. He's not a good shooter. His defense is meh. And I prefer Sam Hauser at this point over Banton easily. Sam made some plays today, and we haven't really talked about Sam. Sam made some pretty sweet plays this game. He had a blocked shot. And the thing that I keep talking about this about Sam.
Dare we say he looked athletic tonight?
Oh, I thought he was about to dunk on Hartlestein.
I thought he was gonna.
I thought he. Oh, and that would have absolutely brought the house down if he did that. But the thing I keep watching more and more about Sam, that it's just who he is. He's a smart enough player to do the most basic fundamental thing you want to do as a defender, and that is stay between the rim and just stay between the rim and the dribbler.
Just stay in front of the guy.
Exactly. And Sam does that as good as anyone on his team, damn near. And he's not going to be a shot blocker. He's not locking guys up. He's just going to make you making shots harder. That's what you want.
That's what we said about him last year too. It's like, they had that stupid stat about him leading the league in defensive rating. And again,
right.
That was part of it was in his limited minutes. I think teams, we've explained why we think this kind of thing happens. Teams get matchup, all geeked up on finding the matchup and hunting him out, and they take their, they take themselves out of their offense because they're just like, got to attack this guy, and it's easier for the defense to settle when you know what's coming and when the other team just goes ISO heavy because they think they've got a matchup in Hauser. So they weren't as successful as they thought, but really it just comes down to the fact that he's always competitive on defense. It's not, as you said, he's not driving you nuts. He's not locking you up. He's not everywhere you look to go. He's not there waiting for you. He's not one of those guys, but he is exactly that. I'm just going to stay in front of this guy and stay competitive. And I'm not going to be a freaking turnstile here. And that's what he does. He's always competitive and he's smart and he plays with his feet and he does a good job with that.
And you know what? And I was texting a scout earlier today, and we got on the topic of Sam, and I asked him, why is it that teams are still looks like they're trying to hunt him down? And he said they're not doing that necessarily to score on him. They're doing that to wear him down. Because now he's on the scouting report as a guy that can knock down shots. If you make him work harder defensively, yeah, you absolutely want to score. But then they were just like, what? You're wearing him down, so he's not going to shoot as well. And I thought tonight, Sam did not shoot the ball really like we've seen. And he had to play a lot harder defensively in this game than he's had to play in some others because they were going at him a lot.
Yeah. It was not a typical Sam Hauser box score on his birthday, which is what it was today. I think 26 years old today. Happy birthday, Sam Hauser. Did not hit a three on his birthday. Tear. Oh, I lost you.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right that he didn't hit a three on his birthday.
Right?
He should have been the one with 30 points, not Derrick White.
Exactly. But again, contributed in different ways, which you like. What's funny about Hauser, and again, 0 for 5 tonight, a minus 10, all 5 from 3. What's funny about Hauser was, the fear factor with playing him or leaving him in there or playing, deep minutes with him. I think the most important thing is that doesn't exist anymore. You're actually fine. You're fine playing him in most situations now. And it's not kind of like, oh, let's survive the Sam minutes. Like, I don't think you feel that. I really do think it was like a, in case of emergency break glass sort of player, and he's not that guy for them anymore. I think they're just like, yeah, when we need him, we'll put him out there. Josue Pavon has been on the scene, hunting down the latest about some bullshit about what went down. Were you in talking to Jaylen? And before you tell your story, let me see if were you in talking to Jaylen?
I was, yeah.
All right, we have a soundbite here. I'll play it first, and then we'll hear Josue's take. He was in there listening to Brown talking about his ejection in the fourth quarter of tonight's game against the Knicks.
Excuse me.
To be honest, I'm not sure. But I wish I would have got my money's worth. I always thought my first career ejection would be something a little more exciting. Maybe a tussle or something. Guys get folded up, go to the ground, not some over-emotional ref who had a bad day. Like, what I'm most upset about is I should have got my money's worth.
What was the second thing that got you tossed?
I don't know. So I think it's a difference between showing emotion and it being disrespectful or derogatory towards another person. I don't think I was directing it towards him whatsoever, especially on the second one. It wasn't even close. I'm on the bench. You know what I mean? I'm talking from the sideline. You can't even hear anything I'm saying. So he calls a tech from across the court. That's for sure have to do with somebody having their emotions too involved in whatever else is going on and they accessing their power with technical fouls. Like, I ain't going to comment on officiating in general, but I am going to comment on this guy in particular tonight. I thought that was bullshit.
Yo,
That's a couple of fines.
You just got your money's worth.
I wish we had
Facts,
dollar
my dude.
signs that I would have been running up every time he said something because it would have been like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, he's got the kind of money. He's got that kind of money. He's good.
He's going to get the tech rescinded, but he's going to give back a little of that $300 million after that press conference there. So, Josue, you were in on it. Give us your take.
Yeah,
Bobby's trying to crash your party, but you got the floor.
He's still pretty fired up, and you know what? Rightfully so. Rightfully so. I mean, obviously the ejection didn't cost the Celtics the game here, but when you think about a referee, handing a technical foul over something that he did, and he's calling it from across the court. I mean, you can 100% understand why. If you're Jaylen, you're like, how do you do that? And then you pull the second one, right in that moment. So I looked at the pool report. The officials, now he spoke on the second one because Jaylen said, look, I didn't say anything to this guy, even within shot of his ears. And he said that, the officials rather said that it was a gesture that Jaylen made. Did you guys go over this already?
We just saw the pool report a couple
minutes
ago. All right. There, and that's what Sherrod and I were speculating before.
That's why I think it's personal.
That's what I thought happened is, if you saw. He's far away, and Brown is saying, you can see it clear as day. He's saying it was the same play down there, and he's pointing to the other end of the court, and the ref probably sees this, pointing his finger.
And he's thinking Jaylen saying, like, and this clown did this X, Y, and Z.
And you mother, he thinks he's wagging at him, and he called it. I think it's so obvious when you see it. But that's the thing is, like, that's why you don't make any calls from that far away. Like, you're not calling a foul from the other end of the court because you just you can't see it. You can't toss a player from that far away, not being sure that what he's saying is directed at you at that point.
Absolutely. So you can't make those kind of assumptions. Right. You can't.
So that was the mistake there, is he for sure assumed that Brown was going at him. And it wasn't the case.
And then Joe Mazzulla weighed in on it, talking about how, what he said, the line that he heard that earned him the first technical foul was about a call that he labeled weak as SHIT, as Joe Mazzulla said. And as Joe Mazzulla said, he's heard a lot worse in the NBA, a whole lot worse. So without going further, into detail, he just put it this way, said, look, I don't want to lose $20,000. So, that was his way of saying, that's all I'm going to say about that. But clearly, Joe Mazzulla didn't agree with the first technical foul. He couldn't speak on the second one because he said he didn't see what happened. He didn't see the play-by-play that led to the second one, but he was really against the first one. And Jaylen Brown, I mean, he cooled off towards the end of the press conference, but you could tell he obviously was very fired up. Like he said in that video, he never thought that his first ejection would be over an emo ref, if you will. And that's what happened tonight. We had an emo ref in his feelings.
Wow, Bobby.
Yeah. They won't find me, John. I'm good. So we good, guys. They gonna find me.
All right.
Yeah, Celtics were laughing in the locker room. They said they've never seen Jaylen that mad. They were laughing at how he was kind of waving his fingers, calling the guy toward him as he was storming off the bench there. And then Jason at one point.
So that could get him in trouble too. Like, Jaylen's going to get the tech rescinded, but going out there and telling the ref to come to step to him, or whatever, like, come here.
Yeah, he just wants to have a conversation with them, Joe.
Yeah, you can't storm on the court like that.
What do you mean? It's like, just come here and talk to you for a second, man.
I feel Jaylen on them conversations.
It wasn't calm, Josue. It wasn't calm.
Nah, when when someone's really upset, they give you that nice, like, just come here for a second. Just come here for a second.
Hey, let's go around the corner. Let's go around the corner and have this conversation.
He doesn't want to give you a hug. Right.
Jason was like, you should have seen the look on Sam's face when he went out there.
Yeah.
So,
Sam, what are you talking about?
They were Hauser.
So Hauser?
No, Hauser was shocked, I guess, but they shrugged it off. They're not too concerned about it. Porzingis did say, though, that they got to work on that a little bit, and he put it on himself, too, because obviously he's had a lot of texts this year that, no one's ever going to be 100% happy with their refs. No one's ever going to be praising them. So I guess Jaylen went all in, though, Josue. He racked up some more money in that press conference, you think?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Couple checks.
I don't like to talk about refs, but this mother over there who's in his feelings.
But emo ref numbers.
That was my favorite part. The fact that I guess he's in his feelings. That's damn.
Yeah. You had a bad day.
I agree with Jaylen on that.
I don't know about this one. Obviously, I thought Jason was at fault last Friday with trying to interrupt the replay there. This one, I don't know. Like you said, John, It wasn't conclusive. It was from far away. He's on the bench, just kind of stewing. I think you just let it go there if you're the refs. But again, you can't put yourself in that position if you're Jason or Jaylen
Anyway,
back-to-back weeks. And it's a close game at that point, John.
It's not.
I don't know, Bobby. No, this one's different.
Like, there's no doubt about it. They're two separate stories. One, it probably wasn't a warranted tech. Two, just shut up. You know, like, there's no benefit to continuing going at the ref. And you've already earned your 5th foul, and you got to sit, and you just got a tech. There's no benefit to continuing to go at him on the bench. So, yes, obviously better. Same thing with Tatum. He just couldn't let it go, and he kept going and going and going. It's obviously better to just take your medicine and stop. It was a bad call, or I didn't like the call. I'm done. I'm not getting, nothing good can possibly come out of it. Right. It still doesn't change the fact that it was a bullshit tech.
Is it anyone's job, Sherrod, to calm these guys down in that spot and make sure they don't get ejected? Because if this happens in a playoff game, it could be devastating.
Well, I don't know how the Celtics are doing it this year, but I know that
you know what the Lakers did.
Where there are certain assistant coaches whose job is to make sure that when things get, like, for example, if let's say something really egregious happens on the court, and then you start seeing players trying to converge there. Certain assistant coaches are supposed to keep certain players from not engaging in that. But I don't know if there's like a protocol for, you know, if a player is getting upset, you assistant coach need to calm him down. No, these are grown ass men who are making 9 figures, 8 figures. No, you need to calm yourself down.
That's a different tax bracket. Damn.
It is. And the thing about Jaylen, though, and I think the part of the frustration for him, and I understand where he's coming from, he's on the bench. He's taken himself out of the court. He should be able to say whatever the hell he wants to within reason on the bench. And if he's just saying, if he's just gesturing this way, making it, I don't understand how I'm still struggling with the second tech.
It's personal, man. It's got to be personal. To me, this is maybe these two have a history, or he's just always been someone that he's like, you know what, I don't like this guy's attitude. You know what I mean? Because for him to make that assumption, it's got to be personal. It has to be.
I don't know.
He wasn't even, because there's a difference between doing it from afar.
I just think I think he's in his feelings, and I think
he was very mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that it's a difference between getting waved off right in your face, like get out of here with that weak stuff or whatever, and doing it from afar, you know. And I feel like when I say personal, I don't think that this guy's like, oh, I can't stand Jaylen every single night, but I think that when he's in the heat of the game, heat of the moment, he's got a tech ready for Jaylen at times, you know. And I don't know, obviously we don't know if these two have a history, but for you to give him that second technical foul that quickly, I don't know, man. It makes me feel like he sort of has a thing that he had that ready. You know what I mean? I just feel like he had that ready.
Do you agree with this, John? I want to poke Kess up here.
Yes and no. There's a different. You can show emotion without complaining to the referees. I don't think complaining to the refs is emotion. It's not. Like that's just, it's selfish, honestly. Like, it's your thing. You feel you got wronged. You've got to get your pound of flesh. Emotion to me is, so you don't like how, a hard foul and you run up to somebody and you get in their face, you hit the deck, you do different things, you get up, you flex, you friggin' roar after a good play. That's emotion. This isn't that. This is, like I said, everyone's going to get hot. It's a competitive game. Stuff like that's going to happen. You're going to flail around. You might give somebody a shove and get yourself a tech. You might snap at a ref quick because you have an emotional response. It's part of the game, but nobody's rooting for guys to go in on the refs as a sign of emotion. I think there's a million different ways that they can show it.
But there's a difference between the first tech and the second tech, though, right, John? I mean, like, not to say that, like, after you get handed that second tech, you have to be, I mean, not to say that, what do you call it? To earn that second tech, you have to do something way worse than the first thing. But I mean, this is sort of that situation, though, right? And at the same time, we talked about that what happened with Tatum, right? When he got ejected. And I just feel like there's a difference between soon as the call's made and you react right away.
It's the continuation. That's all we said. The the
or
longer
back
it
and
goes,
forth.
the more you know something bad's going to potentially happen. You're putting yourself in a position where, it's like giving them excuse, but that's it.
But then when they're separated, though, you're thinking, "Oh, okay, Jalen's good now." Like that's where I side with Jalen, because I'm like, he did the right thing. He's not
He
still in
shouldn't
the
have been
guy's
ejected.
face.
He
And
shouldn't have been ejected.
He wasn't pursuing him, right? He shouldn't have been ejected. I mean, those are the type of ejections that I feel like are warranted, where the official just feels cornered. He doesn't know what to do, and he's in his feelings as well. He's emotion.
It seems stupid considering you remember what it takes to get. I mean, the conversation we had 2 years ago in the playoffs, what it took Draymond to get ejected. He's literally stepping on people's balls, and they're not tossing him out of the game. Like, so again, yes, this is stupid shit. Like, it's stupid. But as far as the emotion, no, I'm not saying that I necessarily like favor it or not, but sometimes it happens. It's never happened to Brown before. We're not sitting here saying, Bobby, it's like a problem. Like, I'm not worried like, oh,
It hasn't
geez.
been.
He just not his thing. That's not what
no,
he
it
does.
hasn't been for Jalen, right?
Never.
But for this team, it has. And Grant's gone, of course, so maybe someone had to step into the backup role behind Tatum.
The officials have been weird this year, guys. And normally they have their funky first 2-3 weeks where they want to lay the land of the law and all that stuff. But
people in the chat are having a difficult time with nuance. Okay, he didn't deserve a tech. But the more you go and bark at the refs and continue with your beef, the more you open yourself up to it. You guys understand the difference, right? Okay? It can be both.
And you can't win. There's no winning there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to gain?
No ref's going to be like,
you don't gain anything.
I didn't
put
see
yourself
it that
in a
way.
position. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Other basketball-related stuff, Bobby.
That's how the second half of the conference felt. Like no one spoke for a second, and then Jared White goes, so Derrick White had a good game today, and everyone just kind of laughed. So, I mean, yeah, Jalen wasn't as pissed off by the end of it, but obviously he had to say what he had to say.
I love the balance in this game, John, offensively. I felt like everybody was involved in this game. They found ways to integrate bench guys into the starting lineup. You saw that double big unit to close in the halftime. You saw Hauser playing in the fourth quarter with the starters contributing, had a big offensive rebound for a second chance bucket when the lead got down to 9 there. So tremendous game offensively. They need this. They looked like they were reorganized, reset on that end. You didn't see the clunkiness that you saw over the last 9 games before this that were starting to worry me a little bit. And Porzingis returning obviously has a big deal in that outcome. But Drew, more involved. I felt like his involvement was very low to start this season. And Derrick, probably the best game he's had all year. So those guys obviously benefited from Porzingis being back out there. Some good set plays, too, at different points in this game. You saw Joe calling those out, got Horford at 3 in the corner, got Jaylen that dunk over Hartenstein. So coaching getting involved in the offense, too, to initiate them through some of the more stagnant stretches in the second half, because obviously that 20-point lead got down to 7 at one point.
Sherrod's got too much commotion around him, so we'll continue on here. He may jump back on. He may not. Bobby, we talked about this a little, and I want your take on it. I sent the stats to you guys a couple of days ago, and then Brian Barrett, tweets it today. The on-off numbers with the starters, the starting 4, the core 4, and Porzingis, and the same ones and Horford, being such a stark difference here. And again, I'm not saying this as an indictment on Horford, but it is interesting how dependent this team has become. Has become on Porzingis so early.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. At this point, I think, Josue, you're starting to say if they don't have him, they're going to be in rough shape just because he's the guy Brown and Tatum can play off of. We know how much they have problems sometimes playing off each other. But when you have the big man involved as a screener in mismatches, as an easy target for passes, I mean, he scored the first 8 points in this game and then was a target throughout. I thought he forced things a little bit in the second half, which, you'll take from him because he can hit those tough. I can't believe some of those 2-pointers he hits from mid-range, John, where the guy's right in front of him and he just tosses it up over their head.
It's just
like no rhythm. We've all shot those shots before. They're almost impossible to make, but he makes them look easy. When a guy's right up underneath them. So it's a great return, looked fresh. The 3-pointer was there early and often for him. Drawing free throws, a strength of his too. He's just such a weapon on that end. And I turned to Josue at one point tonight and I was like, who would ever thought this would be the guy? This would be the guy who would unlock everything. It just shows how far his game's come, because when we talked about trading for him at other points, he wasn't this guy. This is a different Porzingis we're seeing compared to 3-4 years ago in Dallas, especially.
Yeah, he's such a smarter player. I feel like. I mean, we didn't see him a lot, throughout the course of the last 2-3 seasons, but you just seeing the difference of the way he meshes with these guys, and of course those games against the Wizards where he was really carrying the offense against the Celtics. So I mean, obviously Brad Stevens had this guy in mind, and he made the right decision because he just changes everything. I mean, there was one point where like some of these defenders, when they get caught on the switch, and it doesn't even matter. Like it's just devastating. Like there was one play where he scores, like you said, Bobby, made it look effortless, almost like off of like 1 foot. 3-point shot over Josh Hart, shoots it right in his face. Hart goes back on the other end of the floor, gets caught on the switch, fouls Porzingis, which I think at that point was his 4th foul. He just does a beeline straight to the corner and just sits there and sulks. Like, that's how frustrating he is. And I feel like with this lineup, especially, it doesn't matter who they're playing against. I mean, in terms of the switching, it's interchangeable. I mean, all these guys can guard 1 through 5, and it's interesting because one of the questions that Joe Mazzulla got before the game was the difference in the impact that Porzingis does, and the fact that he's one of the 4 guys that can do that in terms of switching. And Mazzulla is like, actually, we got about 8 or 9 guys that do that, and I think it just shows. It says a lot about what the Celtics defense looks like when Porzingis is out there, and especially what he means to the offense. And those numbers that John you sent me, it just makes. It makes sense, but seeing it back after for like a week and a half, it's just like, oh wait, yeah, this is how
it's
explosive this team can be. The offense can be. I mean, shit, what is it, 100 points in the first 3 quarters? I mean, that's how electric it is. That's how it is.
It's instant. The impact right away. Bobby, it's interesting too. Like, we didn't know exactly what you're getting in Porzingis, right? This is a guy who fell off everybody's radar, kind of. Just based on either injuries or just kind of playing in obscurity and, not ever kind of living up to that, first couple season hype when he came out with the Knicks as the original unicorn. And this guy who was like, early in his career, maybe a top 10 NBA come out, like, oh my God, Porzingis. And then, there's some reputational issues. Like, people were concerned, like, what type of guy are you getting and this and that? Like, it's almost like pinch yourself kind of dream scenario in terms of not only
unbelievable.
the type of guy, like player he is and how he fits, like instantly, like he and Jaylen are best friends. He freaking loves it here. He'll do whatever it takes to win, but also the fit on the court. Like both of those things it's like, we just didn't know. We didn't know exactly how it would work.
His demeanor is so infectious too. You see guys laughing, like Jason and everybody were laughing at his post-game comments there, because he was like, after the ejection, everybody calmed down. Everyone was chill, even the coaches, and Drew's in the back, like mimicking him. Like they all just get a kick out of him. He's so easygoing, and he seems to be a great teammate in the room, because all he says is, I don't care about my stats. I don't care about the shot totals. I don't really care about any of that. I'm having fun here because we're winning. Love the crowd. Love the fans. He just seems to get this whole experience, maybe because of the other difficult experiences he's been through. I know he was on JJ Redick talking about that this week as well. But he's hilarious. I mean, I was joking around with Josue before the game. He's drinking a Coke and just walking on the court and hitting shots. And then right before we talked to him now, he just pounded a Bud Light, came over and talked to us.
Yo, my man.
Like he's just having such a great time here. And his game looks effortless too, John. He just tosses it up and hits everything. I've never been more impressed by watching a player just shoot around. Even this morning at shoot around, he just boom, 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 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. And I know that's not impressive because all the pros can do that effectively, but with him, it's just a little bit more smooth watching him do it in that body.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, no, I'm with you too, Bobby. I mean, we don't see that often. Someone that can just light it up, even with no one out there and it's not in the game situation. It's still fascinating to watch. It's interesting. Joe Mazzulla had a lot of great things to say about Tatum and Brown. The fact that these guys can recognize when it's time to really get other guys involved and how they evolved as facilitators. But if you ask me, man, the biggest difference maker is Porzingis. I mean, he allows these guys to do that because not only is Porzingis going to go out there and can easily score your first 8 points of the night, but he can also spread the floor for you. He can also, be a threat in the paint. I mean, constant double teams where you're always going to find an open guy. So if you just play smarter and you just have that natural approach, and the way the New York Knicks would just really came out strong defensively and trying to limit Tatum and Brown, those open passes are always going to be there. And that's when you have, like I said, those 8 points to start the game from Porzingis, and then later on, Derrick White was just got his offense going early and often, and he finishes with 30. I mean, there's just so many other weapons that open up when Porzingis is out there. But of course, Tatum and Brown, you do have to credit them for having that, for evolving in that sense, right? Because I feel like a year ago, that wasn't always the case. And obviously a year ago also, they didn't have someone like Porzingis. So it's all coming together for sure.
He really is a blast to cover. And I was thinking in the locker room, John, it's the opposite of KG. You always talk about KG, how he'd wait all night long and he'd just come out and
it didn't matter because when he did, you were like, that was the best post game ever. Like, and his KG would make you wait, and then you'd be like, I could write 20 stories off of this. Like, it was enthralling, and you're like, I'm so glad I was here for it. It was just it was just such a drag,
See, while you're doing that towards the end of his tenure in Boston, I'm trying to edit that same post game conference.
You would struggle, Josue.
Man, I'm at WEI and we're up against, we go national at a certain time, so it's like I got like 5 minutes to edit this thing down and put it on air real quick, and then it's just like bleep 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 bleep, just riddled with swears.
It's so funny.
He's not that good, but he's funny. He's honest. Yeah. He'll get in depth on stuff, and he's I don't know, people don't care about this, but he's fast. Like he'll just be like, "Can I talk now? Why not?" Yeah. Like right after the game, he'll just walk right over. And his big thing is,
it's a much appreciated thing for the media.
We like that. We love that. Yeah.
And his big thing is, I've never seen anyone do this. He wants a chair so he can just sit back and relax while he's
talking. Which is also great because you don't see a lot of Porzingis interviews shooting down on him, and that's what we have here. This is Porzingis. This is what Bobby was talking about. This is Porzingis on the Brown stuff.
Yeah, no, it's he got a little bit riled up, some calls, and we knew that like everybody needed to just calm down a little bit. Like it's always, both teams probably feel the same way. Some call, like you rarely hear somebody says something good about the refs, and so refs always get all the blame, but it's always for both teams feel like, oh, some calls should have went our way. So I think we have to do a better job of maintaining our composure. JB is not, it doesn't happen too often to him. Happens probably more to me than anybody else on this team, but we're working on it. This is a part where we can grow, and we maintain our composure. Coaches too, and everybody stay calm, and we just kept playing and didn't really give them too much hope. They did get a little bit closer, but we were able to maintain that lead and just finish out the game.
So that's what the top of Porzingis' head looks like.
It's never been reached.
That's the first time anyone's ever seen it.
Yeah. I've never seen it. That's true.
Oh, man, he's great. Yeah, who would have thought? Who would have thought he was the guy who would tie everything together for this team? But here he is doing it.
What do you mean? Like as the tech king or just in general?
No. Just his production and the offense. I'm shocked he's the tech king too, but we haven't seen that recently. Maybe he'll be the next guy.
I'm glad he added that. That was funny. Because, I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't you the guy who always gets the text?
How many Bud Lights do you think he could drink?
Oh, this guy's
I should ask that. You know me, though. I'm always getting in trouble, John. So I kept that one on the side.
It's more old school. You used to walk into locker rooms and people would be drinking beer there,
It was different for sure. Yeah, you don't usually see that.
I've only seen it from Klay Thompson during my day.
After a win, why not? They got 3 days off here.
It was pretty normal. The 2011 Red Sox ruined it for everybody.
Yo, Popeyes is undefeated though.
Yeah, Popeyes is undefeated. Did you watch Atlanta, by the way, the show?
Oh, I love that.
Yes. The series finale?
Popeyes prominently featured in the series finale. It's pretty freaking funny. When you're talking about Popeyes being undefeated.
The ending of that show was perfect.
I thought it was perfect.
It was.
Perfect.
And now there's like a conspiracy theory that it was a dream or something, but whatever.
I love it because it could be. You know, it's all in Darius' head.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that was the whole show. I love it. Leave it open-ended like that.
I love it. Anyway, Derrick White, we weren't we talked a little bit
good
about
is
him.
this guy?
Again, super interesting how this night goes. And
around.
I'm making the same points I made with Sherrod just to hear your take on it. But like, it's crazy, right? That you have a game where Tatum was like a non-factor early. He still gets his numbers because he's Tatum, and that's going to happen. But he
He's
wasn't
pretty good late.
Yeah, he had a good game. It wasn't a focal point. I thought Brown played an all-around good game until he gets ejected as well. Offense is humming on all cylinders, but the guys who are the engine behind it are Porzingis and White, and then even Holiday, who I thought had an overall really good game, and he needed one because he hadn't been playing great. But like White was clearly like the guy tonight.
Yeah, I was talking to Drew this morning about him not being involved as much, and he said big reason for that is that teams always put their worst defender on White. So they're looking for him throughout the flow of these games to take advantage of those guys. I can't remember off the top of my head who that was tonight, but subtle impact. You didn't even feel like he had 30, but he's that aggressive in his opportunities, and he's that efficient that he's able to rack up those numbers. I think you've talked a little bit about this too, Josue, just how aggressive he is pulling up from three. Never really felt like that was part of his game.
No hesitation.
Yeah.
If he sees it, he takes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to let it go.
When he came over from San Antonio, you didn't say this is a guy that pulls up from three and knocks him down off the dribble, but he's doing that now. And you got to credit, obviously we talked to his trainer over the summer, Marcus Mason there, Ben Sullivan, he got a lot of work in with last year when he was on the staff. His shot has come so far from that first year he arrived, and it's a dominant part of his game now, beyond the finishing in the lane through contact. And then the defense speaks for itself. Yeah, he's just absolutely dominant on that end of the floor. And this is after a bad game on Monday for him. Bounces right back. Key to this win. We say it all the time, John. He's underrated. He's underrated. He's underrated. At this point, you got to start thinking. I know he got left off that list preseason, but every week it feels like you're just like, how high can he go?
So that's the weird thing about it, because like, even year one when he wasn't playing great, like the analytics still rated him. It didn't, to the eye test, didn't look like he was playing great
guy
because he wasn't shooting well. But if you use all the catch-all kind of analytics and the top 10, he was, a top 40, 45 player in the view, of like the analytics community, and like they love him, like consistently rated, as a top 30, top 40 player. So when he didn't make that, I thought after last year, I thought the notion of Derrick White.
Where he's ranked right now, by the way, in one of those catch-alls, the Raptor one there.
Yeah.
10th.
Yeah. As I love like Andy Bailey. I love who does that list that I send you guys from time to time, does the top 10 catch-all stats, and he compiles them and he puts them all together. And like
Holiday's 11th, by the way.
Yeah. White's always in there. So again, he does so much, but I thought the underrated stuff was gone after last year, the way that he played. And then he goes 101 on that ESPN list, which was honestly, it just seems ridiculous at this point, considering all the love the Celtics have gotten over the years. Like Grant Williams made it, and like Derrick White didn't. I thought it was crazy, but like
crazy.
White is getting freaking MVP chants tonight from the crowd, and was asked about it after the game. What it was kind of like, getting that vibe at the Garden.
If you're aware, but calling Derrick White underrated is kind of like the hottest trend in the NBA right now. So when you get to the line at the end of the game and they're chanting MVP for you, I'm wondering how that feels with someone that's kind of always tried to stay humble its whole career.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anytime we got the best fans in the league, so I'm always thankful and grateful for them. I know I'm not the MVP, but it's always cool to hear.
Tell him, Derek.
Always cool.
That's that humble smile right there. You know what else too, man? And I've said this before, but the way he's making teams pay for leaving him wide open, man, like it's getting to the point where he's getting quicker. That release is getting quicker. And there's some times where if it's in the flow of the offense and there's a guy in front of him, he's going to let that thing fly and he's going to score right in that person's eye. Like it's a confidence thing in my opinion. And it's also a rhythm thing. Once he's in rhythm, it's like, look out. And it's not one of those, he's not one of those players or offensive players where he has to be from behind the arc or he's limited to certain spots around on the floor. No, he can get things going anywhere. And I think that's what has made him such a devastating scorer or third, fourth option, which however you look at it, when you're looking at this team's offense, because he's always open a lot of the times. And again, that confidence continues to build, and he continues to be a much more effective scorer, in my opinion, man. It's only going to keep getting better.
And that's the difference is like White's evolution into this type of player, which you said, Bobby, wasn't one that you thought you were getting, which was you thought you were getting a really smart player who moved the ball, who played good defense, who made really smart decisions and always the right read, and was more of an opportunist on offense, but not a dead eye shooter, not a dynamic,
and he still is,
not
but
a
he
dynamic
takes every opportunity.
But exactly, like there's no hesitation. If he sees an opportunity, he goes aggressively to the basket. If he sees daylight, he'll pull up from three, even if he's taking the last 4 shots. And that's something that's like not easy to do on a team that has Tatum and Brown and Porzingis on it without them starting to think like, who is this guy? Friggin' Jordan Poole, but it doesn't feel that way. When he does it, you're like, I like that shot. Good shot, D. White. They're all good shots. And as long as they're falling at a reasonable clip, you wanted to take them. But like now just look across the board. And I know Holiday had his struggles a little bit, but I mean, you really do have 5 starters that can create their own offense. Most teams didn't have. That's what I always thought the biggest problem with the Celtics was. It was Tatum, it was Brown, and it was no one else. That's why Brogdon was a godsend last year, because it was finally a third guy who could do it. But like now it's like everybody can do it. I mean, and it changes the whole dynamic.
Remember Thibodeau before the game, Josue? He's like, they were playmaking everywhere. We gotta be on alert.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
He tried to pretend like he didn't realize it's the 5th time he's playing the Celtics. I'm like, you know it's the 5th time.
But that's the thing. If people stop thinking the term playmaking means passing the ball, and playmaking just means the best play made available to you at any given time, when they're all playmaking, it's a friggin' crazy lineup, and I thought tonight, Bobby, for the first 3 quarters, it's almost as good as the offense has looked all year, the way they were playing. And that's without Tatum or Brown going off.
Right. I mean, it's such a difference.
I loved what they were doing. I
want to pull up the numbers now. I don't know if they're updated, but at least coming into tonight, plus 27.5 with that group out there. The defense.
Bobby, I put stats on the screen in your behalf. I did it. I did. I showed the net rating.
Yeah, they're driving up some massive leads with that group out there, and bench has been good. Bench continues to be good. Not saying they're anything amazing or spectacular, but you're getting good minutes from Hauser. I feel like Pritchard's minutes are good, even if he's not hitting shots. And Cornette, I know everyone's going to complain about him, but he survives out there. Starting to see him switch a little bit too. So
I
like that.
You're just throwing him in there, Bobby.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it tonight.
Right,
I'm gonna skip it.
Yeah, that's what you said.
He's surviving out there. He's giving them something.
He's surviving.
Yeah, we're gonna let it go.
2 or 3.
I don't have it in me.
4 points. Take it.
Surviving is wild.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it. He's surviving. We got it. It's like my wife and I can fight again about who did the dishes more times today, or I can just do the dishes. It's like
you pick your battle sometimes, John. What you saying?
I'm just not gonna do it tonight.
Right. Let's take our weekend off here.
Yeah. All right.
You enjoy the Pats last night, John?
Huh?
Enjoy the
No.
Pats?
You know he didn't enjoy that shit. Come on. That is not what he's rooting for.
I'll say this on a human level. I don't dislike the team. I feel bad for some of the guys on it. So like seeing them like do well and get excited, great. Like actually, it was hard to not feel good for them in the first half, putting up points and being functional. It's sad covering them and listening to them. It's sad going down there and these poor dudes, man. The locker rooms after games are funerals. It's just sad. So nobody's wishing ill will upon the team itself, but just lose the games, man. Come on. Don't do this. Don't do this. So I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah, they're clearly not tanking. They're just that bad.
I mean, that's the thing it is that bad. But I mean, frickin' Trubisky. It is what it is. It's not what I wanted to see.
Well, they give me a Zappy jersey.
Yeah, if you're this close to rock bottom, just stay there.
Draw. Yeah.
The Jets winning in the last week of a season or whatever it is. I mean, you've seen teams do it. The Texans did it in Romeo's last thing, and they cost themselves a pick. Like the Jets cost themselves Trevor Lawrence and ended up with Zach Wilson for being, oddly competent at the end of the year one year. So like,
don't
do that.
I do have one thought because I've been a get Bill out of here guy, but I do wonder if he can generate a little momentum in the next year, save himself. Is that a good thing for them? Because obviously the next coach isn't a sure thing after him.
Yeah, so. Taylor and I talked about this on the show a little bit.
I'm torn on it. I really am.
We talked about it. I think what people are so mad at the team Bill put together that they are, just like get him out. But it's like you're really not going to get another coach like that. Even if you think like, he's lost a little of his fastball. To Bill, it's less about like, can he still do it? It's like, is he willing to change in the ways he needs to change, which is like how he evaluates talent, allowing other people, to maybe have more say on the offensive side of things that are outside of his comfort zone. Recognizing what it takes, the type of offensive personnel that you need to be competitive in this league, welcoming in outside assistants or outside voices that might challenge his perspective a little bit instead of everybody being somebody who, has been suckling at the Belichick teat for their entire lives and they've only learned one way from one person. Like those things make it really hard because they're just so, kind of, it's just everything is just so institutional there at this point. Like if the whole process has to change, but again, Belichick's Belichick, and he's still, coaching up the defense to basically blank teams week after week after week, and it's not. I'll put it this way: it's not a sure thing. It just seems likely if Kraft goes to Bill and he's like, can I take a little off your plate? And Bill's like, no. And if the answer is no, I think he just goes and that's it.
I think that's the right move.
And so that's what it comes down to. Is like, Bill, I don't want you to do all of it anymore. I just want you to do some of it. Is that okay? So we'll see. But anyway.
Last one I got for you. It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
You excited for the NBA Cup final?
No, I wasn't really ever excited for any of it, but not like in a grumpy sort of way. I meaning I think they're excited.
Should be a good game.
And like the Halliburton stuff is fun to kind of watch there too, but like take it or leave it. I still think the players' number one crowning desire was Vegas more than it was winning. They just wanted to go hang out in Vegas.
Yeah, that and the $500,000,
those are both good reasons. But again, slam dunk success for generating buzz and interest, and it's fun. And you know what? What it allows, above all else, what it allows the fans to do a little bit is to freak out and overreact some to like games at this point in the year
that they would never react to.
The Bucks lose a game to the Pacers in December. You lost a game to the Pacers in December, but you lost the in-season tournament semifinals to the Pacers.
Oh, yeah, we did it on Monday, John. You weren't there, but we
so like it's that disappointment of like step up, losers, and so like it definitely kind of manufactures something that you couldn't get at this point in the season. So a great way, brilliant. My take on the in-season tournament before the season was similar to the World Baseball Classic. Like, seems dumb, but then you watch it and everybody gets into it, and like it's an awesome time, and like the players are really into it, and this and that, and and so it goes. So like people will hate the idea of it, think it's dumb, and then they'll probably be like, that wasn't so bad, that was kind of cool. And I think that's what you got out of it. Like, okay. That wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I liked it.
Yeah.
Despite it being kind of weird and awkward in the courts and like, wait a second, like, so they just play that, and people not even understanding the rules for the most part of it.
People still asking about it. It's like they just found out.
People didn't quite get it, but at the end, it generated buzz, particularly like that last
elimination game, elimination round,
night heading into the whatever.
I think those are the nights that the NBA is really aiming for, because like you said, John, it's cool. I mean, it's not cool until your team's in it, right? Until your team advances and they have an opportunity to knock somebody out, because that's always going to bring, obviously, that competitiveness from teams, but also fans are going to get into it because of it's just something to flex about. We knocked your team out and we're not even a real playoff team. Like, those are the type of teams I feel like are going to benefit most from this. And I feel like, moving forward, if they continue with this thing, that's always going to be the annual type of attitude towards it, right? It's stupid, it's dumb, and then as soon as their team is in it, it's like, oh, well, this team might go to Vegas, let's go. Lakers fans, they're loving this right now. For LeBron to go out there, have a chance to bring home some hardwood before
perfect
before the playoffs.
Team everybody knows about in the Lakers, and a team people are just getting familiar with in Indy. Couldn't have gone better than that.
When I was playing Little League, we had in addition to our World Series, the title that you would try to get to, we had a city series in Newton, which was all of the Newton Little Leagues would play each other in a tournament.
That's pretty cool.
It was fun because Newton's a big enough town where we
have
you have brackets.
You have but
it would be four different brackets, and we would play like a semifinal, and that was always fun in the middle of the year. You get your juices up for that mid tournament, and then you're playing for the then you're playing for the cup at the end. So this was fun. I always said I think an international tournament would be really cool. We talked about this on the show. I'd love to see it be like Champions League, sort of thing, or they
different groups, and
you'd screw it. Let's go play, Celtics versus Real Madrid. It's going to be dominated by NBA teams, but it'd be kind of cool.
I feel like that's the overall goal. I mean, that's something that this is what Adam Silver was talking about originally before the NBA Finals started. So I feel like that's they got the ball rolling there. And if anything, man, for these guys to come over here to Vegas, especially if that's sort of the plan, I could certainly see that happening, right? If you advance to a certain round, you get to come over to the U.S. and you play the Celtics or Lakers or whoever's there waiting for you. That'd be
what you do is you take 2 breaks during the season, where
you'd have to stop
international play or something like that, and you'd pause for a week here and a week there, and then you would do the finals. I think that would be kind of fun. But anyway, that would be fun. Anyway, we're gonna wrap. We're taking the weekend off. Obviously, any breaking news, you can come to CLNS and we'll handle it. But next game is on Tuesday. No Patriots. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Have a stress-free, sports-free weekend. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Any Bruins? Maybe I'll watch the Bruins.
Yeah, go ahead if you want. Do whatever.
Shout out to Evan. Evan was here today. Say what up to him.
Who, Lazar? Or Marinovsky?
Yeah.
I forgot. We have 5 Evans. Yeah.
We had.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you put a tweet out being like, "Oh, we're short on Evans. So if you guys want to apply."
We are. We only have 2 Evans now. Valenti and Marinovsky. Well,
only Evans. Only Evans. Only that they have to. They can apply it. So.
We could use a few Evans. Yeah. For sure. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.